Good morning, everybody. This is Brett Zachman, Zach, founder of Beam In. Coming to you live. We are Facebook Live every Friday morning here at Danny Kalela's studio. And you know what? Every time I show up here, it gets better and brighter and bigger. And so we want to do a shout out to Danny. If you don't know this man, you need to get to know this man. If you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, and you're looking to get your message out, right? Social media, this is the mixture that's making it happen. And this guy is fantastic. We love what he does to support our community. We're coming to you live for the Beam In community because we're supporting what's coming up June 29th. We've got our 5 Pillars of Male Wellness workshop coming. And in addition to all of that, we are bringing you these live events because we want to do a little bit of a deep dive on those pillars one at a time. And sitting to my right this morning is one of my favorite men in the whole world. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good to see this guy. Now, this guy is one of my favorite guys. Hashtag squad, as my buddy Kirk Samuel says. You want it in life, gentlemen. I know it looks cool, right, in the movies and in the books and stuff, especially with Hollywood, to kind of be that solo guy and to be isolated. And look how tough and strong you are, and actually that's just setting you up for failure. So you need to have your inner sphere of guy buddies. And this gentleman to my right, he is definitely one of those 2 a.m.ers. In fact, I'll let you know it's 6 a.m. here in Denver, Colorado. So we're up, the 3 of us, and the sun has yet to arisen. So why are we doing this kind of craziness this early in the morning? So to introduce this young man, we've known each other for a couple of years now, right?
Yes, we have.
You're a father.
I
right?
am.
Dutiful, loving father. You're a former serviceman. Is that right?
Yes,
hey,
I am.
Thanks for your service.
Thank
to
you.
God and country, we appreciate that. And you've been a businessman?
Yes.
Okay. And you've worked in a family business?
I have.
Okay. And what you all don't know that you're going to know now, this guy is quite the graphic artist. So if you like the branding of Beam In, you have nobody to thank on the planet but Mr. Jeff Ruiz.
C'est moi.
Awesome. Well, we're going to jump right into it because we don't want to take up a ton of your time here this morning, and we want people to stay on as long as they would like. So my first question for you, Jeff, why Be Men? Why are you a part of this? Why on a Friday morning are you up before the sun's even up to sit here with me?
I feel very fortunate that I found this organization. My recent change in life started a few years ago when I went through a significant life-changing event. I went through a wildfire at my canyon property. And when you come really close to an event like that, I think it causes most people to change a little bit. My life was pretty selfish before then. I didn't really pay attention to a lot of people or seem to care too much about what other people were doing or thinking. But after coming really close to death like that, it really turned my brain around and caused me to start thinking differently. I thought, well, what is this life all about? What am I here for? What am I doing? What is my purpose? I started to hang around different types of people. My mind changed. My mind shifted. I became more spiritual. I became more aware of people. And in my relationships, I felt more connected to things. So in that transition, I started thinking, well, what was it that led me up to this? I thought, this has to be a sign. I always look for signs. And I discovered that I need to start getting into myself a little bit more. I need to focus on what I'm really about. And in my discovery, and in the course of my life that led up to that, I discovered that there were a lot of preconceptions about what I thought it meant to be a man, and the mistakes that I thought I made in life. Long story short, my journey led me to different circles of people, such as yourself, which I'm very grateful for.
Oh, me too, brother.
And as soon as I found out that you were working with men and trying to figure out what makes us tick and try to bring us out of our shells, it really intrigued me, and that's why I love this organization.
Man, that's awesome. So if you don't mind, do you mind if we dig just a little bit deeper? Because you said something in there, all of that about, I think it was something like a near-death experience. And I know you've told me that story. You don't have to tell the entire story, but would you tell about that one moment, in that story, so some of these guys and ladies in our community can share?
Sure. It was a very windy day in the canyon, and it was late afternoon, and I became aware of something burning, and when I looked out, I saw a raging fire blowing up the slope right at my home. As you can imagine, I was terrified.
Oh, man.
In the time it took me to call 911 and to try to gather up whatever valuables I wanted to at the time, it felt like an hour had gone by, but in fact it was only a few minutes. I barely had enough time to get out of there because my long driveway was blocked when I tried to leave, and I literally had to drive through that wall of flames to get out of there. And it was just like in the movies, you know, how you say, I can make this.
Wait. You drove through the flames?
I drove through the flames. I knew where the driveway went beyond the fire, of course.
Okay. Yeah,
and I thought, you know what? I've seen it in the movies. It works. I'm just going to do it. And I went really fast, and I flew right through there and made it out the other side. It was a thrill and scary all at the same time, all the emotions you can imagine.
Wow. Are you guys catching that? I mean, this is a modern-day hero right here. What you've seen CGI'd in Hollywood, this guy actually went through the wall of flames. So that's the offer, right? Red pill, blue pill, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go with the B-Men community? You've probably got some flames in your world that you need to drive through, right? Just press on through. So, you know, there's kind of psychologically, there's fight or flight. So what bubbled up inside of you there, young man, that you drove your truck right through a wall of flame?
What bubbled up for me was, I'm about to die if I don't do something. And I felt that I had to take some action in order to get something done. And I think that is probably one of the more stronger attributes that I've developed, is when there's a whole bunch of stuff going on around you and it doesn't seem like there are very many other options, take action and see what happens later. Ready, fire, aim.
There you go. Man, that's awesome. So you've got that choice, right, guys? Lie over and play dead, or fight through, right? Step through the fire. So you mentioned kind of a near-death moment. That kind of brings me to my next question. So you've been in the military, yes?
I have.
And remind me of the service, Air Force, yes?
Air Force.
Okay. So, you know, a lot of us, of course, a guy like me that didn't quite have the stones to go that route. I mean, I did think about Air Force. I thought about the Air Force Academy for a very long time, until my dad had to come to Jesus, as I say, storyline with me, where he sat me down and said, son, well, first of all, let's talk about this. Let's talk about getting up at 4 a.m. You know what I responded to that, Jeff? I said, what, on purpose? Like, how many times? He said, how about every day? You know, like this morning. And I'm like, who the heck does that? He's like, that's what the military do.
That's right. Just like this morning.
So, what made you decide to walk through that wall of flame? What brought you to being an Air Force serviceman?
Well, my father's career Army. He did 20-some years. And I felt that I would like to follow that in some way and get into the military myself. He suggested I go into the Air Force,
okay,
which I did. I learned a valuable skill in there. I got computer tech training. I went through all that. I was only in for 8 years, so I didn't go the full 20. But I learned a lot of things, and I went a lot of places. And I'm grateful for all the places I traveled. By the time I was 25, I had been to so many places. It was a wonderful experience, and it taught me a little bit about how the world works right out of high school.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, did you have any near-death experiences as a serviceman?
I did not.
Okay.
I flew a lot on sorties, but never had a near-death experience.
Wow. So the near-death came much later in life after the service was over.
Yes.
So if you guys are catching that, it wasn't Hollywood, right? It wasn't in the Air Force that he faced the near-death. It was much later in life, and it was just everyday, normal kind of stuff. So we're talking about financial freedom today, right? That's the pillar we're diving deep on this month. In the military, was there anything that went on that you know, kind of helped you out or taught you anything money-wise? Did that come up?
It actually did. Leaving home at 18, I thought that the military would give me a lot of responsibility, or to instill a lot of responsibility in me. I was single, lived in the dormitories, had no expenses, no bills. My meager paycheck that came in was enough to sustain me because the government took care of everything else at the time. So I was able to build up a nice little chunk of savings while I was in the military in the beginning. And I found that I didn't really have a lot of financial responsibility at the time, so it was a good opportunity for me to start stacking things away.
Nice. So wait, maybe a little bit of financial, dare I say, freedom?
There was a bit of financial freedom involved, yes.
How'd that feel?
It felt really great.
Yeah?
Not to have any bills or to worry about where your next meal was coming from or pay the rent or anything like that. So
let's let that sink in for just a minute, community. Financial freedom. When was the last time you thought about the word freedom in regards to your money, your personal finances, how you're managing it? We have a saying in the financial agency that I work for that yes, money doesn't make you happy, but neither does poverty either. So for any and all of you who are kind of not thriving, but you're surviving, keep on, right? Keep on keeping on. Get through your wall of flames so that you can get to that stage of liberation. So later, you went to work for your family business. Is this right?
I did.
Awesome. How much later was that in life? When did that come by?
This came about in 1990, right after I separated. My parents have operated a printing business since 1986. And when I got out of the Air Force, I thought this would be a good career change, kind of shift over. After hanging out with them for a little bit and learning about printing and graphic design, I got interested in learning graphic design on the job.
Nice.
Back then, it wasn't as fancy as it is now. This was just past the age of metal type, if any of you out there are familiar with printing. So we started on computers, and I used my knowledge and training of computers and computer systems from the service to help my folks set up their own network, their own IT network. At the time, I don't believe it was called IT. Maybe it was. And I got involved learning how to do that. I've been doing that ever since as a trade.
Nice. Now, there's of course the old cliche that the family business and therefore the son does what the father does, and it's not really a choice. It's either forced or there's the unspoken word that thou shalt work in the family business until death do us part. Was that how it was?
No.
Okay, you're good. So you didn't have that dysfunction?
No.
Nothing
was forced.
Really? Great.
Nothing was
Great.
forced. Now, there are certain dynamics involved in working with family businesses. I've got much experience in that regard, and I've coached people before on how to deal with that. There needs to be some kind of a separation involved between the family and the business, but it was never a forced event. I always thought I wanted to contribute to that.
That's awesome. So you had a functioning family and a functioning family business. See, it can be done, ladies and gentlemen. It can happen. This is proof positive. So I know you dove deeper with the IT and the graphic design and everything. Did you at all get involved with kind of the monetary day-to-day or the short-term, mid-term, long-term in the family business?
Not too often.
Okay.
The administrative stuff was handled by the folks.
Gotcha. But you were probably handling your business,
yes.
Right? And I noticed in there was a small word that perked up in my ears, separation. So you've gone through separation and divorce as I have. Everybody knows my story and what a catalyst it was for me and where it brought me. And B-Min, quite frankly, wouldn't exist if I hadn't gone through separation and divorce 15 years ago. How did that impact you monetarily, if I can ask that question?
Yes, you may ask. Divorce, separation takes a huge toll on everyone, mentally, physically, because of the stress, financially, most certainly. And I've had my share of ups and downs in my relationships financially. And it takes a toll on people. It really does. There are a lot of things that change because of that.
Yeah,
You're not used to the same lifestyle. You're not sharing things anymore. All of a sudden, you become 100% responsible for what you're doing and what you're buying. It's a terrible thing to go through for quite a bit of people. And I believe that we as men put so much pressure on ourselves to feel that we have to be able to sustain that or we fail. And there were many times, Zach, that I felt like a failure whenever my financial profile dipped below what I thought it should be.
Right. But you're here.
I'm here.
Pushing through that wall of flame. So what was the inner drive that kept you going, even if you felt like you had a financial failing or you weren't exactly where you wanted to be?
I think it was the same feeling I felt in that fire. Survival. Survival. Some people can push through. Some people might want to stop and freeze and go away or dwindle. And I guess I just was one of the ones that pushed through.
Good job. We're glad you did. And so for the men that are listening, and even the women, right? Because let's be honest here, with the B-Men community, here's something that's fairly unique. And if you haven't discovered this yet, we've got almost 600 people in our growing online social community. And that's over 400 men, but it's also well over 100 to 150 women. Now, why in the world would we do that? So, gentlemen, let's just scratch an old cliche. It's not behind every great man stands a great woman. It's beside, right? And we love women, and we love what they do to support our community. And I know you get some of that support, so good job pushing through. So at this stage of our lives, and dare I say at this age of our lives, you know, we've got a little bit of wrinkle cred, as we say, you know, right? Got a little salt and pepper.
I do.
You wear it well, though, brother.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
You got that very elegant, stylish look going this morning. So at our age, what would you say to other men our age, older than us, younger than us? What would you say to them about money? What have you learned?
I think what I would say to the younger ones coming up, and even the middle-aged ones that are coming up, is that if you find yourself experiencing a financial crisis in your life, don't think that it's the end of the world. Don't give up. There are always options. There are always alternatives. I would encourage you to start younger and prepare yourself for the inevitable or the unexpected, whatever life happens to throw at you. Because in the end, our perception of ourselves is all we have, and we need that perception to be healthy. We need to feel that it's okay if we stumble once in a while. Guys, don't put all this pressure on yourself that you have to have all the answers, that you have to have all the money, because in the long run, it's just not that important. And find someone in your life that feels the same way you do.
Nice. Well said. Well, as we're wrapping it up this morning, some of your words made me think of something we've talked about. So here's a little sneak peek for you all about the 5 pillars of male wellness. When it comes to financial freedom, we have a saying in the B-Men community. You better not wrap your identity inside your wallet, because bad things happen to good people all the time. And so perhaps, gentlemen, it's not monetary capital that's going to drive your life, but maybe it's social capital, right?
Exactly.
On our deathbeds, I can't imagine that I'm going to want somebody to wheel in my cash, but if you're standing there beside me, I think I'm going to feel pretty good about that. So as we say goodbye here on this Friday, I'm going to do a little shameless plug because Jeff's last words kind of brought this to the forefront of my mind. So before we get to the 5 pillars of male wellness, coming up June 29th, tomorrow morning, 9 or 10 a.m. at Parker Adventist Hospital, myself and 3 of our key members, J.B. Braden, Chris Natsky, and another gentleman, Kirk Samuels, we're going to dive deep, and we're going to be doing a program for the youth. Right? You said get started early, right? Let's get proactive with this so the next generation of fine young men that are coming up, if you want to get a part of that, I'm going to be teaching about financial literacy. And this is so important for our teenage boys to learn this early and often and then practice it. So go to Uplift Him MLI, that's Masculine Leadership Initiative, and check that out. We'd love for you to be there. So we're going to sign off on this Friday. We wish you all, men and women, financial freedom in your life.